Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to this afternoon's commission meeting. With your patience, I would like to delay the meeting for about 3 minutes. Commissioner Barnes has called and he was stuck in traffic about 2 blocks away, and I would like to give him the opportunity to get here before we start. So if you, with your indulgence, and we still have a few people coming in, maybe about 3 or 4 minutes and we'll get started. Thank you so much. We're ready. Gavel over here. At this time, I'd like to call to order this meeting on February 13th of the Lynn Haven City Commission at 4 p.m. If you would, please stand for the invocation.
Let's pray. Father, we just thank and we praise you, God, for this wonderful, beautiful day that you've given us, Lord. We recognize that this is a day that you have made, and God, let us rejoice and be glad in it. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to live in such a great country, Father, where we can exercise our freedoms here in this town that we call Lynn Haven, Father. We thank you for the men and women that go before us every day and defend those freedoms, God. We pray that you'll be with them and their families. Lord, we just thank you for Lynn Haven. We love Lynn Haven, God. We thank you for the residents of Lynn Haven and all those concerned, Father, and we just thank you and praise you for the opportunity to come in here today and discuss this business, Father. And we just pray that you'll give us wisdom, guidance, and direction as we go about the city's business today. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. I see that we have a large number of people here, and I believe that many of you may be here due to the item 3, which is the public hearing. I would like to say in advance of the public hearing that we have had notification from the developer that at this time they are going to pull the land use from the land use agreement from the agenda, but at the same time, I have some comments that I would like to make about that during the mayor's report as explanation. and to also make my personal comment about it. But many of you are here for that, and so I would like to go ahead with the public hearing and give you an opportunity to speak since you are here. If no one speaks, then we'll just move on to the next item, which is the mayor's report. Also, if you'll notice, item number 8 on the agenda is for public commentary. If you're here for any other items that you would like to speak about, that would be a time that you can speak on anything about the city of Lynn Haven that you want to talk about today. It doesn't have to be on the agenda. Then as we go through the regular agenda, there is also opportunity for public commentary on any item. So that's how we'll go with the meeting. So with that, I would like to announce that the public hearing is, well, before I do that, I would like to say that we're very happy to have Commissioner Barnes back. He's been out for surgery and he hobbled in, and we're happy to see him back tonight. So congratulations on being back. At this time, it is now 4:07 Central Time, and I declare this public hearing open. It's Marina Island LLC Transmittal Ordinance number 1048 with a final reading and no action taken until item number 11. And just to take out any confusion, even though if someone has an agenda on the item and they decide to remove it, the commission still has to have a motion and approve to remove it. So that's why it's not just being simply removed. So at this time, I will I have a short presentation of the ordinance, the reading of the ordinance rather, by the city manager. Thank you.
Ordinance number 1048, an ordinance providing for the adoption pursuant to Chapter 163 Florida statutes of a land use change from low-density residential to mixed use for an approximate 2.9 acres of property located west of Tennessee Avenue within 10th and 11th block in the city of Lynn Haven, Bay County, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date.
Thank you. And at this time, our city planner, Ms. Amanda Richer, will show you that plat of land and a little description about it, I believe.
Thank you. This is a small-scale future land use map amendment application. The applicant is Marina Island LLC, the agent Panhandle Engineering Inc. The address, the property is west of Tennessee Avenue within the 10th and 11th Street block. Parcel numbers 08922-001-000, 09758-010-000, 09758-020-000, and 09758-000-000, and also the right-of-way fronting these parcels plus fronting parcel 0978-000-000 on West 11th Street. The existing land use is low-density residential. The requested land use is mixed use. The existing uses on the sites are currently vacant. The property is 2.9 acres approximately in size, and the adjacent land uses are mixed use on the entire north and northeastern boundaries. This is an aerial which shows you just a portion of the property. That's a portion of it outlined in red. The reason that this aerial is on there is because I wanted to let you know where the land was in proximity to the main fuel depot property and the bridge or the causeway that goes across. These are the parcels involved. All those parcel numbers that I just read out are all here in red. So it's on Tennessee Avenue, and then the old railroad line goes around it to the north and the northeast. This shows the right-of-ways, which will always also be included in the land use change. If the land use change goes through and the property is allowed to have the mixed use designation, this is how the land use map will look. So the purple is mixed use. The existing mixed use is there in hatched purple and white. The new mixed use is there in solid purple underneath to give you an idea of the expansion on that. And this map shows you the fuel depot property. On here, the pink is mixed use. This shows you the fuel depot property and then also Highway 77 and some of the other streets in Lynn Haven where the mixed use is located, and mixed use is pink on this map. The mixed use designation which is being asked for allows for single-family homes or multi-family units to include duplexes and townhomes. And if the property is purely residential, it allows for 10 units per acre. So if they only put residential on there, they can put 10 units per acre. If they were to have proper mixed use on there and include some commercial in some way, they would be able to go up to 20 units per acre, but I don't believe that's the intent.
Okay, thank you very much. And so with that, at this time, I would like to open this public hearing to public comment. If there's something that you'd like to say, please limit your comments, if possible, to 3 minutes for the sake of the brevity of the meeting. If you can get it all said. So is there anyone who'd like to make a comment regarding this land use change proposal? Yes, ma'am.
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I realize that I spoke at the last meeting. I wanted to bring everybody's attention that the present mixed use near the 3 properties that the developer is wanting to go from single-family residential to mixed use is the rail line. So the properties in question are really not surrounded or attached to mixed use except for the rail line. If the developer is giving the mixed use designation, he can go in there and do what he wants to do. At the last meeting at the Garden Club, when the Friends of the Lynn Haven Bayou asked him to speak to them, the developer mentioned he's putting up four-story buildings with parking underneath on that property. In addition, he's putting up a sales office for the development. I'm assuming, along with a sales office, you would need some type of parking lot. I can envision that on that property also. There was also supposed to be a connecting road. He wasn't very specific, either coming from Tennessee or 10th Street to connect to this 4-story building complex. It's going to have a pool and either a gate or a pool house and a dock out into the bayou. I personally don't feel that this is in compliance with the Lynn Haven's comprehensive plan. It's not the same use that the surrounding area is or has at the moment. It's in conflict with the way of life. The people are accustomed to living in that area, and I do believe it should not be granted to the developer.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Walker.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. This is a public hearing, and I will honor the 3-minute rule, but that usually goes just for the citizens. At the end of this, are you going to make a ruling on this public hearing?
At the end, Mr. Walker, if you want to say whatever, but at the end of the public hearing, I'm going to present my mayor's report in which I have a statement leading the commission to a motion regarding the item which has been requested to be removed from the agenda. And I also have some other comments. So with that, if you'd like to make your comments.
Because it reads in the agenda final reading.
I
then
understand.
The action
I understand.
Will be in number 11. That means a vote. And the vote the last time.
Okay, Mr. Walker, what I just said is the developer has asked that it be removed from the agenda, so I can't speak for the commission at this point. I'm assuming they're going to remove it from the agenda, and you're free to make any comments you want at this time.
All right. Backing up and going through this, the original public hearing was to forward this to the appropriate offices for permission to do this. That was the original, and that was sidelined, and there was no motion. So that stopped that. That is still the objective of this, is to forward it to the 3-letter identities which are supposed to protect us from bad things happening. So with that in mind, the one thing that came about in all these meetings is the road that goes out from the fuel depot, which is the question here. That was supposed to be the rails to trails. At that meeting, Mr. Bales said that he will be turning the rails to trails property, which is C1, over to the city of Lynn Haven. At that point, the city should have said, where is the contract? Let's sign it and get it done now. He didn't. We didn't. We should do that. We should get that rails to trails signed, sealed, and delivered. It is not done that way.
That is done, Mr. Walker, but continue.
Pardon?
That is done, but continue.
Okay, so they don't own that piece of property anymore.
Continue.
Okay. In conversations about the road that comes out of there, which is in the CRA program, is budgeted for $8.1 million, and of course you said and removed the CRA development plan, which has been on the website for almost a year, as the plan is now a draft. So the 8.1 can be considered not in there. In the Triumph meeting that we had in Apalachicola, it was looked at the LLC group had applied for $10 million to build the road, which is the Marina Boulevard. And that was accepted, and that seems to be going to go ahead. It was the most amount of money awarded to anybody in Bay County, above and beyond the things that the Lynn Haven had requested from the Triumph money. That seems to be a very, very thorny thing in our side, that the Triumph money, BP, is going to be used to help the developer build a road out of the fuel depot, over the rails to trails, and enter into 390.
Thank you.
That is my comment for today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on this side? Mrs. Tennell, I believe you were next. I'm sorry, I'll get you next, Mrs. Tennell.
My name is Wayne Pate. I live at 812 Kentucky Avenue in Lynn Haven. We're talking about what I call the front door of the oil depot that faces Tennessee. There's no business on Tennessee. It's strictly family. I want it to stay strictly family. It affects people in our neighborhood. People across 77 probably don't care. I don't care about the oil depot, but I do care about the front door, what I call the front door that's fronting on Tennessee. Once you allow the business to come in there, if you change it, he can put anything he wants to because it's mixed use. Right now it's single family dwelling, and I'd like for y'all to keep it single family dwelling. We almost purchased that land when I moved here to Lynn Haven, but it was tied in with the airport some way, and we didn't buy it. We bought on Kentucky, and back then you had to have 100 by 150. Now you can build on 50, and they're changing the neighborhood. I don't want business on Tennessee, and if y'all will not change it, I'll appreciate it, because it affects people in our neighborhood more than anybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Pardon? Sure. Could we put the land map back up on the screen so everyone can see? Okay, he's working on that now. You're very welcome. Ms. Tennell, you were next, I believe. Here we go.
Libby Tennell, 505 Virginia Avenue, Lynn Haven. I am the oldest person in Lynn Haven. I've told y'all that over and over. I was born here, and I do not want high rises there in our neighborhood. We've got to stop this. If you start it, it's going to take all over, and we'll look like the beach out there. And I don't think the people of Lynn Haven want that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Harris.
I would like to say that I support the Marina Island development. I'm glad it's coming in, and I think it will be good for Lynn Haven, but I think it's premature to encroach in the neighborhood with commercial development. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir. When you're speaking, if you will, please try to speak directly into the microphone and loudly so that everyone can hear. Thank you so much.
I'm Tom Nolan. I live in 1219 Alabama. And looking at this map, right now you're talking about Tennessee and west of Tennessee, which I'm concerned about that also. But the map they had up there before, they had the pink, and they showed the railroad right away directly behind mine and all my neighbor's house. And if you want to put a walking trail back there, I promised Commissioner Witkoff, the last little go-around I had with the city, that I wouldn't oppose it. But if you're going to try to put a road back there, I'm going to fight you tooth and nail. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Who else? Yes, ma'am. Okay, please, everyone be listening to each person as they speak. Thank you.
Anita Sampson, 94 Kentucky. My concern is Tennessee is quite a narrow road. There's no sidewalks. Traffic is already a shortcut for those that want to get to from 390 to 77. If you give this person the ability to build, was it 20 per acre? How is Tennessee going to handle that traffic? We are on the west side of Tennessee, means that is our main artery to 390. Now and also what golf carts are allowed. So more traffic on Tennessee is going to be a terrible mistake. There's going to be casualties, I'm sure. There's going to be problems, too much traffic. It is residential, there's children. And like the one person said, we do it now with a high rise for one person. Guess what? You're going to have to do it for other people. So I'd like you to consider no. And why did the developer cancel the vote for today?
I have a statement that I'm going to be making during the mayor's report.
Okay.
I just didn't want to cancel the public
All
hearing.
right, when it comes up again, could you send out a letter to everyone on the west side of Tennessee, make it a 6 o'clock meeting so that those that are working can come, and then let them know that this is going on, because I found out from Facebook and word of mouth, and seeing those signs sitting there on Tennessee, people do not know what's going on. So I would like for you to, in a workshop or something, send a letter out to all of the people west of Tennessee when the final meeting comes and the final vote comes, and please make it a 6 o'clock so that people that are working can be there and that everyone is notified, not by just word of mouth. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to listen. I'm Mike Longo. I live at 1101 Carolina Avenue, and we also attended the Friends of Lynn Haven Bayou discussion, and I am absolutely in favor of this development. I hope you approve it. We live on the bayou itself, and I can tell you from personal experience, and you guys, everybody here, you can go see it yourself. I mean, ecologically, it's a disaster. The bayou is dying, right? And it's going to continue to die. Progress is going to happen. I know we've heard a lot about high rises. My understanding, they're 4 stories. If the developers have also agreed to dredge the bayou and open up deep water access to the bayou, that's going to flush it out. Otherwise, we're all going to sit back in our nice, comfy neighborhoods, and the bayou that we all count on is going to die. So that's all I have to say. I hope you approve it.
Appreciate your comments, sir. Anyone else? Yeah. Yes, sir.
My name is Brad Yunt, 210 Lakeview Terrace, and I have a simple question. If the high-rise buildings were placed on the right-of-way, could their outgrounds be in the low-density residential? In other words, does the count for people, can that be restricted to just the buildings themselves? That's my question.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir. I wasn't ignoring your question. I just don't know the answer to that question, but I'll find it out. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name's Stan Peacock. I live at 2109 Pentland Road in Lynn Haven. I've only lived here almost 17 years, so I guess I'm a newbie to the neighborhood, but I have a lot of concerns. And to give you the short summary, I'll defer to the mature analysis of Libby Tunnell, and I agree with her. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Peacock. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Hi, I'm Sue Bynum. I'm 703 West 12th Street. I'm on the corner of 12th and Tennessee, so I'm directly affected by this. And what we're looking at is We're in a single-family residential area. We would like to keep it that way. Now, if Mr. Bales wants to develop the area and bring it back behind the gate, I don't have a problem with that. But don't put condos right there where you can't control the traffic on Tennessee now. We're on the corner of 12th and Tennessee where the new stop sign is at. I have sat there and I've watched the police chase the guys running the stop signs there continually to the point that they can't write the tickets fast enough. With this coming in up there, all you're doing is bringing more congestion to our area. We don't need it. Don't put condos there. Keep it single-family residential. That's what it's intended to be. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Andrew Nihichavansky. I live on 1207 Alabama Avenue. I have great concern because just looking at the map and Google Earth, I am the closest house to the railroad tracks. So someone within the city authorized the builder at some time frame to build to that easement because just like on my survey, and a lot of people's probably said abandoned railroad tracks. So I have the concern and safety of what is the city going to do with this builder to provide safety for my family that we live so close? And the zoning, and is an official going to come speak with me about that? So I'd be gladly to talk with them.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome at my office or any of these at any time if you want to come in and talk further about it, okay? Thank you for coming and letting us know. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Mr. Robitaille, sure.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Madam Mayor. I'm here because I've lived in Lynn Haven a long time. I bought my home here. I've lived here more than any place else I've lived my entire life. I like it here. I raised my family here. I plan to die here. And with that said, I want you to look at that map. It's very important that we look at that map. That's a lot of territory, folks. And I've lived here a long time, and I had occasion come here. I didn't hear a word one about buying up all of that city part of Lynn Haven. Not word one. Now, I like to use the word secret, and many of you find that offensive. I use the word secret to emphasize transparency. Transparency to means that the elected officials have not informed the public, which is the case of me. Now, we all know what Condo Canyon is. Anybody here that doesn't know what a Condo Canyon is, raise your hand. Condo Canyon was built on a beach. You can't see the beach through Condo Canyon. What does Condo Canyon do? It provides short-term housing. They can't fill those up with full-time. It's not a good idea. It blocks the public's view. And that's what's going to go on here. And most importantly to me and persons in here, is who's going to benefit from this. I'll tell you who's going to benefit from this. It won't be you. Oh, Mr. Bales talks about ad valorem taxes in the future. Oh. What's going to happen here is Mr. Bales and the 17 agencies which he represents are going to make a considerable profit. Those who care about Lynn Haven have looked at Mr. Andrew Bales' past history, and they have found that he has walked away places, left the buildings unbuilt, leave them unfinished, simply walked away. Now, I don't know how true that is, but it didn't sit well with me. So remember now, who is this all about? Is it about us, or is it about Mr. Andrew Bales and those at Panama City Insurance, whom he represents? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is David Cooley. I live at 206 Georgia. I haven't been here as long as Miss Turnell down there for sure, but I was born here, okay? Just real quick, I'm looking at it from an aesthetic point. Just take away the condos and anything. I think Jack brought up at the last meeting that because of the new zoning, I guess, that's going on, these contractors are clear-cutting these lots now. I mean, it's getting to be I don't know, it's like they got something against trees. You know, y'all cut a bunch of trees down across the street over here. It's kind of depressing, okay?
New topic. We'll come back to that one.
Yeah,
okay?
well, I know, but I mean,
Okay,
it's
stay
just,
with this one.
when if the condo gets built, well, all it's going to be is just a bunch of concrete. I mean, Lynn Haven was a tree. At one time, didn't we have a sign that said this is
Tree
a tree
city.
city? What's happened? That's going away. And I don't know if you guys want it, but I don't want to see a bunch of concrete on Tennessee Avenue. Now, if you put it behind the fence, that's one thing. So, and the other one is these clear-cut lots. I wish we'd do something about that. It's probably because maybe the lot is, the zoning's changed. Have we gone to 66-foot lots for house building? That's a question more than a statement. I mean, if you get down to 50 foot, there's no way you can have a tree in there. Anyway, that's just my concern.
I appreciate it, sir. Anyone? Yes, ma'am. Right here.
Hello, I'm Danny Strickland. I live at 1407 New Hampshire Avenue. And I just wanted to say a couple of things. Being at 4 o'clock, I think someone else had mentioned that. I know it's harder for a lot of people to get here when they're not at work. And no offense against a lot of folks that have lived here forever and have retired here and were born and raised here. But as a younger generation, I feel like progress is always going to need change. And I personally consider it an honor that someone who's worked in all of these different areas all over the world would choose our beautiful city to build and provide jobs and opportunities and something for our children to look forward to. I mean, as it stands right now, everybody that lives in Lynn Haven, if they want to do anything, they have to go across the bridge and go to the beach. And for me personally, I'm excited about the thought of my son having a decent playground to play at and someplace we can shop and someplace we can put the boat in the water without having to take it across the bridge. And I just think it's a beautiful thing. I don't think that it's going to be anything that's going to be an eyesore. And where I understand that a lot of our residents who, you know, are older and who've lived here for a long time may consider it an insult to their neighborhood as they knew it. As I said, progress requires change, and I'm just excited about the opportunity, so I hope you'll consider a yes vote.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Good evening.
I'm Cheryl Brown. I live at 1017 Arkansas Avenue. And I just want to say thank you to the commissioners of Lynn Haven who have our interest at heart. I don't think that development is going to be Cement City. I think it's going to be an inviting place for people to go. I think that's what it's meant for. And like the last lady said, you know, when you go forward, you have to have some changes. Years ago, I had to have 5 huge cedar trees cut out of my yard that there was nothing wrong with them except that the city come through and put a ditch and shredded the roots. Okay? There was nothing I can do about it, so we just went forward and fixed it. And when I drive around Lynn Haven and I take a look at the improvements that are made here, I think I have an idea of the intelligence that is trying to go forward with something for Lynn Haven instead of going out to the beach. Personally, I've been here since 1956, and our beaches are ruined. They're ruined. But 30A, I could just drive out there and sit on one of their benches all day long because it's a quaint place. And that's what I'm hoping is that that's the vision that you have for Lynn Haven. It's going to be good. And I appreciate you thinking of our financial future and the future of Lynn Haven to bring people into this area. It's going to be great. You know, I don't have to drive to the beach or 30A to go out to a nice restaurant to eat, I can go right here in Lynn Haven and go. So I just want to say thank you. Yeah, and one thing about Sheffield Park, I've taken my kids there, and I've been there when there was an old bridge, and I think you're doing a good job with that, and I think you have a vision for it, and I don't think it's to ruin it.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much for having this. And I didn't come up here with a lot of facts and figures, but we have done quite a bit of research. As my name is Brooke Longo, and as my husband mentioned, we live at 1101 Carolina. And if you look at that, we are looking directly over the water there. There's not very many people in the addresses that I've heard that are any closer to this than we are. And I understand, as someone else said, that progress is difficult. But if you sat and looked at and smelled the bayou, that we have on two sides of our land, several of the houses that we are in our area were foreclosed on and abandoned. Yes, a year and a half ago.
Excuse me, if
Yes,
we
ma'am.
could silence our cell phones, that would be great. Thank you so much. Go ahead, ma'am.
And I believe part of that is the area appeared even to us, and we just moved here, and we said, we took a chance. We said, hey, we're going to take a chance. We like the vibe, we like the sense of it. It looks tired, it looks a little bedraggled, but we're going to work on this, and we're going to make it happen. And so we did, and we're really happy to be there. But I think that a few things have been lost sight of, and one was at the meeting, he made a spent quite a bit of time talking about the trees and how they were saving the trees, and they can't take out the live oak trees. And if you look at the diagram of this, what we're calling high rise, it's 4 stories, and it's below the trees. The tree line is taller than the 4 stories. So when you look at it across there, you can barely even see the buildings from where we are, and from the front too. So there's renditions. We can't just say, oh, they're going to put up a big thing like out on the beach. It's not at all like that. I don't know Mr. Bayless. I don't know his integrity level, but he has worked with a lot of different projects. And one thing that really struck me was they were environmentally friendly. And I think that we need to keep that in mind. If we're going to have a world or a city to pass on to our children, and I have children, I have young children, I want them to have a home that is clean and neat and in a better shape than it was when we took possession of it. I will tell you that we stare at the gate and the road to the gate across our water when it's up, because a lot of times it's not up because all the culverts are congested and filled. And we see a lot of things going on over there that we don't want to see. There's criminal stuff going on over there, and we can see it from our driveway. So I would ask that as you're considering this, I respect all of the opinions that have been said here, but I would ask that you consider the fact that if they don't build this here, and we say, no, you're not welcome, they will go and they will do something else, and we'll continue to drive to those places and take our children to those places, and our children will want to leave this place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Jody Moore, 2129 Amherst Street. I just want to say, I don't think I've heard anybody say that they're necessarily against the development, and I'm all for saving the bayou. I think we want responsible development, and the traffic in Lynn Haven is already just outrageous. I think that has to be kept in mind. And so when we hear about 4 complexes that are 4 stories tall, we're all thinking about the traffic that's coming out of there. I've looked at some of the plans for that, and it looks like it's going to be something along the lines of what happened at the old airport, and I'm for that. But we really need to look at the density of everything. And as far as I've heard some comments, I'm not as old as Libby either. I don't have little kids at home. But, people don't move to Lynn Haven because they want the beach. We move here because we want community. We like the houses on the bigger lots. People don't want the craziness that they have out at the beach. We want our families to live on bigger pieces of land and, you know what I'm saying, to have a little room to run around in, you know. So even though I like having the idea of having a center and having nice restaurants and that kind of thing, I'm all for that. But we really need to be responsible in how we look at all this. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak during the public hearing? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Donnie Witkoff, and my brother and I, Mike, on behalf of my mom, Frances Witkoff, she wanted us to come up here and say a few words. As some of y'all know, I know she was heavily involved in the Rails to Trails. My brother and I, we grew up here, and I should say I'm at 209 Indiana Avenue. My brother's on Missouri, and my parents are on Missouri. We're not directly impacted by this high-rise, if you will. However, you know, the key words of density and traffic, I think, should be heavily considered by the commission. You know, that, and I believe a lot of us here understand that progress does take place. I mean, we can see that on 77, clearly. We can see the congestion that's brought. Now, it's given it's a major road. Okay, we understand. But if you look at examples like 390 and the school and the subdivisions that have built up 390 and the traffic congestion, it's pretty atrocious. So, you know, some people have said, yeah, we want a quaint city. I agree. To me, Lynn Haven, you move here to be in a quaint city. You don't move here to be where there's this huge development, parking garages, and so forth. You know, that place, that parcel of land would be a great place for the city of Lynn Haven to have a park that would then extend with your rails to trails. I still believe the developer could dredge that because he's going to need it dredged for his other houses. So I don't see why it's not going to get dredged. I just want to share my concern, even though I don't live directly in that area. I'm a citizen of Lynn Haven. I grew up here, and I respect the other members and tenants of Lynn Haven and what they may be faced with. I mean, Tennessee with a multi-use building, I just cannot imagine the traffic that's going to bring. You know, I understand, again, progress by addition, great. Progress by multiplication, I just don't think that works real well. And, you know, that's about all I can say. I didn't know what I was going to say when I came up here, but that's about it. And I really would appreciate you guys to consider not approving it for multi-use. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And I also appreciate your speaking on behalf of your mother. She's done so much to make sure the Rails to Trails project went forward, so that's really nice that you came and spoke on her behalf. So thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'm Reza Salavani. I live on 1102 New Hampshire Avenue, right by the Lynn Haven Bayou.
I'm having difficulty hearing.
I'm Reza Salavani. You can hear me now. And I live right on 1102 New Hampshire, right by Lynn Haven Bayou. And as the other lady said, there's a lot of folks and kids that go to these woods. I see it at nighttime, the light, God knows what they're doing, drugs and everything going on. And I work at Tyndall. I know the history of Fuel Depot, and I know environmental stuff, and we are part of Friend at Lynn Haven Bayou. My main concern is, you know, opening that, you know, the water, because it's a lot of days that the fish are dying, and it's not enough oxygen, and it smells horrible. I mean, in that area, you know, that I don't know, other people have smelled it. My main concern is really for this is really opening that causeway. I mean, I understand people's concern about the high rise. I'm not for big condo and high rise. As I understand, reading the plan, it's only going to be 40 to 50 feet, and another lady said it's going to be up to the tree level. Basically, I cannot see it from my house, what I understand. Again, I don't live right on Carolina or Tennessee. But my main concern is basically opening that, because for 50 years, the Lynn Haven Bayou been ignored. I mean, no fault of, I don't want to say City of Lynn Haven or Air Force. This is going on back and forth between Air Force and Lynn Haven. We need to do something. If it's not this developer, next guy got to do something with the bayou, because DEP is not going to do anything, as you know. DEP is not their problem. This is something happened many years ago because of the war and closing that causeway. But that's my main concern, is the Lynn Haven Bayou, and we do something about it. As I understand, people concerned about, the traffic and all those issues is an issue. But don't forget Lynn Haven Bayou. That's a big issue. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Yes, sir.
Mayor, Council, my name's Mitch Oakley. I live on Massachusetts Avenue. I didn't come to address this today, but I'm involved in another project, and I wanted to throw out a piece of information. Part of what we're fighting out on the end of, we're 30A in Front Beach, but had some mixed use go, some high intensity. We did not anticipate. What we now have is 42 units whose occupants change every 3 days for $1,500 every 3 days. And so now I got friends with $1 million homes that have to have police officers in their yard every night. So I think maybe if you discuss with the development about owner occupied versus subletting, I think you maybe bring a lot of peace to the area.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else have a comment or something you'd like to add to the discussion? Am I missing anyone? Okay, I appreciate everyone's willingness to get up and speak, and at this time I'll call the public hearing closed at 4:48 Central Time. With that said, most of you who know me, I don't usually read any kind of report. I usually just speak off the cuff, but I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything this evening. And so as I begin the mayor's report, I want to start with some comments about this particular land use change. And then I'm sure that each commissioner has something they would like to add. And as we get to each commissioner's report, I'm sure you'll be able to hear what they have to say as well. One thing before I start reading what I have written, I wanted to just address very quickly that a yes or no vote on this particular land use change has nothing to do with what the commission has done in the past as far as the yes or no vote on the development of the fuel depot property. This commission has been very pro-development, very much making that a beautiful, beautiful place that all of Lynn Haven can enjoy. Can everyone hear me okay? So I want everyone to be sure that you understand that the breaching of that causeway to Lynn Haven Bayou has nothing to do with that land use change, and I'll get to that in my report here. That was part of this plan from the beginning, to breach that causeway before any of this came up about that land use change. So let me continue with this. I have also spent several days during this, between the last commission meeting with neighbors, friends, and homeowners in the historical or CRA district and slightly beyond those parameters in Lynn Haven, which is basically from Colorado to Montana east to west, and from 1st Street to 17th Street north to south, roughly speaking. After the presentation by Marina Island LLC at our last commission meeting, which followed a discussion of a land use change of 2.9 acres at the west end of Tennessee Avenue, full disclosure, I also live on Tennessee Avenue, from low-density residential to mixed use, I promised to listen to the voices of the people in Lynn Haven and find out their opinions. I've been very busy for the last 2 weeks. Even though there were some residents who came to the commission meeting to express their opinions, there were many who did not, and I wanted to hear from them. Some people don't feel comfortable speaking in public. The overwhelming answer from the 75-year and older low-density neighborhood where I live on Tennessee Avenue is no about this land use change. Not to the development, to the land use change of that one place that has come in now at the end by the developers, at the end of years of discussion. I have found that the majority of those who are in favor of this land use change are the residents of Lynn Haven Bayou area who have now been put under the impression that without this land use change by the developer, Mr. Bales, the causeway leading out to the island cannot be breached and the bayou will not be able to be refreshed by tidal flow as it should be. I would like to set the record straight on this. From the very beginning of my term as mayor 3 years ago, I sat at the table with Air Force representatives, Blue Water Development representatives, FSU representatives, attorneys, city, county interested parties, including Mr. Smithwick, who's sitting on the front row, who's had Lynn Haven's interest at heart and been there much longer than I have at the table with this. The land use change of the 2.9 acres at the end of Tennessee Avenue is a new part of the plan, which was not part of any of those discussions. And the breaching of the causeway for tidal flow and renewal of Lynn Haven Bayou has always been part of the conversation. And this should not be used as leverage by developers to change the dynamics of an historical neighborhood. Many are under the impression that this land use change is a vote for or against the development of the old fuel depot property, now known as Marina Island. This is simply not true. I, as well as members of this commission, have been strong advocates for the development, but at this time, we still do not have a development agreement signed, and we haven't seen progress. Make no mistake, the land use change is not an up or down vote for progress, jobs, recreation, or development in Lynn Haven. It is a matter of listening to the voices of the residents who have lived here for generations and want to preserve their neighborhoods. After 3 years of discussion during my term as mayor, many years of discussion before that by the developers and other parties, this property was finally purchased and closing documents were signed several months ago. Now speaking for myself as mayor and not for any other member of this board, I say that it is time for the developers to begin the project as they presented it to the city, with the marina as the first part of the development, the northeast waterfront property to be sold as estate properties to aid in development of other areas, and once any necessary permitting with DEP is complete, breach the causeway as was stated in the beginning to refresh and renew it. I will not support any land use change which invites continued mixed-use development of the old historical residential neighborhoods of Lynn Haven, and I have expressed this week to the developers and today before this meeting. I believe we as a city stand ready to facilitate these or any developers in this wonderful development project with sewer, water, fire, police, any other services we as the city can provide. But Lynn Haven as a city is not here to be a financial partner nor to change the historical dynamics of this neighborhood to provide capital for a project with 5-story condominiums. With that said, I have been informed that the developer wishes to remove the land use change from the agenda, and I need a motion, a second, and a vote for that to occur, or if there are comments that any other member of this commissioner would like to make before that occurs, I invite that at this time. Thank you.
Mayor, I would just ask the city attorney, do we do that now or do we just go ahead and wait for 11? Okay. In that case, I'd make the motion that we remove number 11 from the agenda.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion or comments or questions from the board?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, if you don't mind,
Sure.
I'll just take the opportunity to kind of echo some of the things that you said so well. And that is, and I've said this in some emails and some conversations, I just want to make sure everyone also understands that our duty, or my duty as I receive it, is we're looking at specifically a land use change for 2.9 acres. We are supposed to only look at, and I've sought out a lot of counsel on this to make sure that I'm right, we're only supposed to look at the land use change for that parcel. Nothing else. We're not supposed to consider what may or may not be built there. We're only supposed to recognize that if we change it to mixed use, what could be built there. And so that's the position I've taken from the beginning, and that's why, and that's the conversations I've had with most everyone, including the developer. And that's why I didn't believe that mixed use works for that parcel being in the middle of residential. Thank you, Mayor.
Sure. Anyone else? Commissioner Barnes?
Yes, I agree with everything that the mayor said. One of my concerns is that we do not have a development order, and I am concerned about why is it taking so long to get this development order. I have been in constant contact with the city manager, and I just have some grave concerns about this. When we first started looking at purchasing that land back in 1990, what was it, Jerry, 96, somewhere back in there, we knew that the growth was going to take place. That was the whole purpose in purchasing that land. But I want a developer that's going to come in and that's going to do everything that they say that they're going to do and not make their money off of the hard-working backs of the people of Lynn Haven. I will not ever support that. So there are some concerns I have with this at this time, and I can't support this land use change until these other items come forth. But as it stands right now, based on the information that I have heard, that I've had conversations with the city manager, I can't support it. So just want to let you know.
About this item?
Well, I feel very much like the mayor and the other commissioners. I've been out seeing people and talking to them, and it's an overwhelming group of people that say no. Not to the marina, not to the development. I'm behind that myself. I think it's going to be magnificent if it really does come to fruition. But without the development agreement signed, without a master plan, I personally want to see a traffic study because I believe there has got to be an exit to every entrance. So I'm waiting to see that myself. But I think the marina is going to be a great complex. But I could never vote yes based on all the people that have told me they do not want a mixed-use plan here.
Thank you. First, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight and voicing your opinions. And the mayor echoed my sentiments on this issue. I think y'all all know that I'm a pro-growth, pro-business commissioner. I have children that I want to see to be able to stay here and live and make a living. And the responses I have got have been mixed. I would have to say that it's 50-50. People telling me they want it and people telling me they don't. After doing some research, I've realized that some of the people that have told me they want it actually don't even live in Lynn Haven, which makes me discount their opinion completely. That being said, I've had enough people tell me that this is something that they do not want. And you have to take into consideration the people that it's in their backyard. You know, I mean, it's not in my backyard. So I can't support it either. I mean, this is not the right thing for this part of the city. I am completely for the fuel depot development and want to see that move forward. But again, I don't think the condo is the right thing. That being said, the question is, do we table this motion or do we let it die without a motion and let's move forward with the development and not worry about this again?
Well, the motion that's on the floor and seconded is to take it off the agenda tonight at the request of the developer, so that's where we are right now.
Okay.
Any other comment?
No, ma'am. I would prefer to see this thing be done and not have to come before this commission, but since there's a motion and second here, let's move forward with that.
Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And so this item number 11 is taken off the agenda, and I will continue with Mayor's report, but just emphasizing to those of you at Lynn Haven Bayou that that bayou will not leave the minds and hearts of this commission, and I believe that this development is not going to stop because of this. I'm going to call this a hiccup. I think there's going to be more conversation. I think the developers are going to look again. I think there's going to be more discussion. And I think they just realize that maybe, you know, the community does not want to see mixed-use development like what you see on Jinx and Grace Avenue. Once people start moving out of neighborhoods and going to offices and that kind of thing, then you sort of lose the continuity of the city. And so I don't think that that development is over. Please do not confuse the vote that we did tonight as a vote against the development. It really was just a vote to take this off the agenda. And I think the developers see what the will of the community is about that. I think they'll go back to the table, and I think we can have more discussion and productive discussion. So I feel good about it, and I hope you do too. So with the rest of the mayor's report, the past 2 weeks have been extremely productive ones. I participated in a legislative conference call for briefings regarding upcoming bills during the Florida legislative session, particularly those affecting municipalities and especially home rule. I participated in Bay District Schools National Reading Month by reading to Mrs. Perry's second grade class at Lynn Haven Elementary School, and I'll be reading to Highland Park Elementary on March 3rd. I have had the pleasure of interacting with city staff as we plan this month's recognition of Black History Month by the City of Lynn Haven. During our next regularly scheduled commission meeting on Tuesday, February 27th at 6 p.m., we're going to have cake and coffee. I hope you'll all be here for that. There will also be exhibits at the chamber from various organizations, churches, and schools and individuals beginning at 9 a.m. when the chamber will be open to the public. The national theme for Black History Month is African Americans in Times of War, and we've adopted that theme in our city's flyer. I would particularly like to thank Vicki Gaynor, Lauren Corbin, Vilhaver, and Tia Romano, and others who've worked very hard to help develop this special recognition day. I also attended the first scheduled meeting of the Panama City Airport Authority meeting on January 24th at 9 a.m. to learn more about the marketing and budgeting process of the airport board. I've also spoken with Representative Jay Trumbull, Representative, and Senator George Gaynor about representation for Lynn Haven on that board as the second largest city in Bay County. And this requires the introduction of a bill before the legislature, and I have their assurances that next fall this will occur. I attended the Bay County League of Cities meeting on Tuesday, January 25th at 2:30 and met with other city representatives to plan our quarterly meeting on March 12th, where the league will be presenting several $500 scholarships for students at Gulf Coast State College and Florida State University Panama City campus. The guest speakers will be representatives from those schools. We also discussed the necessity of all cities, mayors, commissioners, and councilmen and women to stay in contact with our representatives during the legislative session regarding bills affecting municipalities in our area. I attended the 1 p.m. meeting of the Gulf Coast Triumph Board at the Apalachicola Court.
One of his employees was nominated for Employee of the Month, and he just happened to be an individual that's here every single month for this meeting, and I'd like Mike Williams to come up if he would.
Just trying to get everybody into the same mindset that we try to uphold every day, which is community policing. We want to develop a relationship with a community that is favorable and get the community's help to help us do our jobs. And Mike's a big part of that. He does a great job. He puts together all our special programs. Christmas with the Cops was a big success this year. Based on his efforts. So he is very well deserving of this award, and we're proud to have him on our staff.
Commissioner Barnes was standing in spirit, he said.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mike. Also, I'd like to add to the police department being recognized as the 41st safest place to live in Florida. I think that's a lot of sentiment to what our police force does each day, and Mike is one of the officers that help represent that, and we really appreciate that. To answer your question a little bit on the dog situation, I've had our new director of community services working on that, and hopefully this next month I will be bringing to you a new animal control policy ordinance that allows our officers to actually give tickets. So we'll have some teeth, and they'll be allowed to give citations and also take animals and all that nature. So I think that's where we wanted to go with it, and I have several on my desk that I'm working through. We just want to make sure we have it correct. The sales tax issue with the half-cent surtax is going very, very well. I'd like to let everyone know, as of tomorrow, please, at 7:30 a.m., do not come down 9th Street. From 9th Street at Ohio to Michigan will be shut down all day long. So they are going to try to fix those that have been here when it really rains. This area in front here really floods. So we're going to be trying to fix a lot of those issues with paving. They've already been putting in a lot of culverts and piping to try to divert a lot of the water. So I just want to make sure you understand that. We've got a blast out on our social media and also to all the news. But if you could pass that along, we appreciate it. As far as the surtax, the 11 months of revenue, we have collected $1.53 million worth of money that we have put to good use. To kind of give you an idea of what the city has done with this money, and of course, many of you know we've borrowed against the half-cent sales surtax. In the 4.5 month period, we have paved 17.5 miles of road. We have laid 5,000 linear feet of water pipe, 10 hydrants, and fixed about 58 services. And on top of that, we've also have laid 4,810 feet of linear sewer line. So we're really doing something with the money. You know, this may be something that may be coming up in the news in the years to come, the next 3 or 4 years. We encourage you to stay behind it because based on everything I'm hearing from your commission, they want to make sure the city of Lynn Haven is putting your tax dollars to good use.
Thank you. Item number 7 is the city attorney's report.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you, and I'd like to personally thank you for answering all of my questions over the past 72 hours. I know I have driven you crazy. Thank you very much. Item number 8, this is public commentary. You may speak on anything, whether it's on the agenda or not. Please respect the 3 minutes so that anyone who would like to talk has time. Mrs. Tennell.
I'm Libby Tennell, 505 Virginia Avenue. And I want to tell y'all, I was so upset when I went down 77 the other afternoon. It looked like a bomb had hit our park. And I am really upset about all those trees coming down. There were only supposed to be 13. But you know, I don't know who they hired the people to trim the trees, but I don't think they knew how to do it. Because when they fell, they hit on all the trees and busted them all up. And I understand you're going to plant some more, but we will not live long enough to have the shade when we're out there in the park watching the concerts because it's so hot. And I'm really upset. I was so mad I could bite nails, you know, and I almost wrecked my car when I saw it. And I understand you're supposed to plant more trees, but I don't think they're going to work. And that should not have done. That should not have happened. This is supposed to be the tree city of Florida. Lynn Haven was, oh, how many years ago? 20 years ago, we were the tree city. But now, it's a bomb city, I think. And I'm so upset about it. I was telling my daughter in Texas about it, and she says, Mom, I can't believe that. And my little grandson, who's a Downs boy, he says, Grandma, don't cuss. I says, well, I'm about ready to.
Thank you, Ms. Tennell. Mr. Rota.
Commission, Madam Mayor. My name's Robert Ty. I live in North 18th. First of all, if I may, I'd like to refer to the kind lady that preceded me as the grandmother of Lynn Haven, because I think we all feel that way. And she touched on a subject very important to me. Always has been, always will be. Again, for those of you that are upset by my word, secrecy, you'll see it was the result of a lack of transparency and outright communication with the public has caused. I was there. I spoke to Mr. White. He was most understanding, most appreciative of my concerns. And I think that's where it all went to. There were some people there that were ready to burn down City Hall, I'm sure. But in the long run, I know it's going to be the best for this community. In the long run, I hope everybody brings an umbrella because it's going to be hotter than hell there without the trees. And on to the next thing. In the paper, there's a presentation about traffic department, which goes to the most recent appointment of a deputy chief. Now, not to degrade in any way the efforts of our police department or our present chief. What is most important to me has been my attempt to get Lynn Haven to give their police department up to the county and the sheriff's department. Now, there's one reason why. Well, actually, there's two, because no one's ever explored the savings involved. But there's one reason why that's most important. One reason why we should consider a sheriff set up. And that's the sheriff is immediately responsible to the public. The sheriff is elected by the public. If the sheriff doesn't do a good job, he doesn't have to go through you folks. He doesn't have to go through the city manager. He goes to the people. And that's the most important thing about the sheriff's department, is the people have control over who is the sheriff, or in our case, who is the chief of police. So in these two issues, we now have pouring more money into, not that much I'm sure, because we grossly underpay our staff. We have now a deputy chief. We're planning on a traffic department, despite the fact that our previous chief of police bragged about the traffic, what did he call it, high-tech traffic cop car that he had developed. But see, my time is up, and I appreciate it. And again, remember, the voice of the people.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Mayor Anderson, and I am the 325th Fighter Wing historian. And since the 325th Fighter Wing is the host unit for Tyndall Air Force Base, that makes me the Tyndall historian.
Welcome.
Thank you. So I moved to the Panama City area in 2001, and I actually bought the house in the country club in 2003. I enjoyed Sheffield Park, and I really love to go there for the concerts, the Friday concerts, and I used to love to go there for the farmers market, and I'm really upset with the tree damage that they have done there. It was supposed to be a few trees, and they took down, I think, 90% of the trees, or they took down 90% of the shade, and that's very important to me. I've been a resident of Lynn Haven with some military time, active duty, and I'm retired now, in between, but I've been a resident of Lynn Haven since 2003, so 15 years. I think that the whole Sheffield Park construction effort has really damaged the park, and it certainly has damaged the trees that was planted by the Heritage Society, the Lynn Haven Heritage Society. I don't know who's responsible for the construction of the Heritage Park. I don't know what's going to go up there. Please enlighten me on what's going to be planted?
I'll be happy to respond if you
constructed?
like.
Please
Um,
do.
We had 3 public hearings in 2015, public workshops. I don't know if you attended any of those, where we came up with a plan for the park. And as Mrs. Tennell stated earlier, part of that plan was to remove 13 diseased trees at that time, damaged trees. I also shared the shock of Mrs. Tennell when I drove by and saw how many trees have been cut. However, the plan was in place. It has been 3 years since that those meetings took place. There have been several tropical storms. There were a lot of trees cut that I didn't know were going to be cut, and I'm sure the rest of the commission was the same. We have a city manager form of government, and I believe he was out on the scene, and people were identifying who were there to work, what trees were dead, what trees had been damaged within that time. In hindsight, Mr. White and I have had a very tough conversation about it. Possibly in trying to get things done, they were out there, they were telling him which trees were dead. He went forward without commission approval. One thing I'd like to see happen in the future, anytime trees are on city property, that it would take commission approval, dead, living, curved, ugly, whatever, to remove them. However, basically, if you look at the artist's conception of what the park is to look like, and it was one that we all decided upon, it looks, even with those trees removed, pretty much the same as the artist's rendition. The majority of the trees that were removed were tall pine trees. And if you've ever been to the park, which it sounds like you have, I'm not defending the action. I want to go back on that. I think it should have been approved before more trees were taken, or at least told to the public, tomorrow we're going to be taking more trees than you expected because they've been identified that there are 20 more or 14 more, or whatever. I agree with that. However, they were pine trees. No grass can grow. It's sandy. Their roots, they're old. Pine trees are very tall. They're lightning rods. They drip sap on all the new equipment. I think that very quickly, they're not going to plant seedlings out there. They're going to plant good-sized trees. I think that they're going to follow the plan. The concert's supposed to happen, the very first one, April the 6th. Should be sodded, grassy, new trees planted, weeping willows by the pond, elms, crepe myrtles,
Those are
live
great
oaks.
trees.
It's going to be beautiful.
I live at the country
Sure.
club, so we have, I
Sure.
know pine trees.
Sure.
And
So,
I want to get one pine tree moved out of my backyard because it leaks the pine straw all over my backyard.
And during Hurricane Opal, one fell on my house, and then I had the others removed out of my yard. But I do love trees. I do love Lynn Haven. I know everybody on the commission shares
And it's not going to be saplings, it's going to be
They're going to be good-sized trees.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you very much,
You're
ma'am.
welcome. Since you are the oldest resident of Lynn Haven, I will allow you to speak again. Yes, ma'am.
I forgot to tell you, I'm in the Heritage Society here in Lynn Haven. We restored Roberts Hall. We're now restoring the old first library in Bay County. And we planted a tree. Jack Mashburn, we went out to his house and he picked it out. I don't know if y'all know who Jack Mashburn is or not.
Yes, ma'am.
He died about a
Yes,
year
ma'am.
ago. He was a senator for years.
Yes, ma'am.
And he gave us a tree. And we had a ceremony out here, and we planted the tree. And we put a plaque down in memory of him. And that was our heritage tree, a centennial tree. A tree fell on it and split it right down the center. And I understand you're going to put another one up, but that won't be the same
It's not the same
tree.
one.
And I expect a nice big one.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I believe Mr. Porter had a comment.
I'm Wayne Pate, and I'm here to tell the commissioners about our street, Kentucky Avenue. It is waterlogged, it is cracking, and we were lucky, we were one of the first streets to get repaved. But we have a bad problem. I've been talking to Mr. Baker. He sent a crew out, and they did correct the corner. But the street is still flooding because the neighbors in front of me on the east side of Kentucky, years ago they built a swimming pool, and they put the dirt on the yard. Well, later on they filled in the swimming pool, and that created problem. And then another neighbor done the same thing. So everybody east of Kentucky, their land is higher than the street. And the water is continually coming from the east side, under the street and over the street. Mr. Baker sent a crew out. They did come out and take care of one particular thing. And I went out and talked to them. And I asked who the crew leader or whoever's in charge was. And he told me, I said, what can we do to correct it? Because it's going to wash the street out. He said, they got to have a ditch on the east side of Kentucky. There's a driveway. He said, there's probably a pipe that got filled in. But there's got to be a ditch to keep the water from going under and over the road. And like I say, I've talked to Mr. Baker. I talked to his crew leader. He said there's got to be a ditch put in. He said it's been filled in, and the only way to keep it from going under the street and over the street is to have a ditch.
Can you address him?
When I left to come to this meeting, the water was still running across the road. I have some photographs because Mr. Baker assured me they'd do something. I want the city commissioners to see what it looks like. And like I say, he said the only fix was to put a ditch on the east side. And I would like y'all to look at the pictures. If
I saw it already. I'm just right there. Yeah. You can pass them down if you like, Mr. Porter. Mr. Pate, I'm sorry.
He's already showed them to me.
And you've spoken with city manager as well, Mr. Pate?
Pardon?
Have you spoken with city manager as well?
He and I spoke on
Okay.
the phone, and
Okay.
that's the reason Bobby went out, and I put the two together, so we hope that
Right.
we'll
Start working to
But
resolve
I do
it.
want
Okay.
y'all to see what the street is like because it's deteriorating. And
Okay,
like
I appreciate
he said,
that.
if there's not a ditch put in, it's going to continue to run under the road and over the road. And when I come to this commission meeting, it hadn't rained since dinner yesterday, but the water is still coming across the road.
Thanks for letting us know, Mr. Pate. Appreciate it. Anyone else have comments? Yes, sir. Mitch.
Opportunity to speak.
Sure.
One of the things I want to express to you tonight, it's been so sweet hearing the experience, an articulate mayor, a council that's really tuned in. I'm an international trainer by trade, and I love Lynn Haven. I'm finally living where I want to be. I think one thing we do, and I don't know you from Jack, Mr. White, I really don't, but I think the point that we're at now where we're starting to grow and do things like this marina development, half-cent sales tax creates a pool of money. I think because of that, I hear for the first time in 15 years I've lived here an undercurrent of real mistrust, okay? And I think part of it is the dictatorial position that you take by nature of your job description. I believe if you're going to have peace in the community, I believe these commission voices need to represent the people more directly and checks and balances in the city. Like it wouldn't have happened. He wouldn't have found himself over there surrounded by the trees having to make the call all along. He wouldn't have found himself with $1 million saying, oh my gosh, now I got to account for it. Some of it grant money, some of it other money. I believe as you move forward and progress, we can have a more peaceful input of the people through their commission and expressing in that manager and you, the mayor. We got a real capable group. So I would encourage you to look in-house at maybe some more checks and balances from the commission in how the everyday business of the city's run. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. In the back, yes, ma'am. Miss Sue.
Sue Bynum, 703 West 12th Street. I just wanted to say thank you for paving our roads, but you need to get back with the people that did the paving. They took 2 weeks to finally clean up there on 12th Street and get all their mess up. In the meantime, 2 of the older people that's down the street from us got fed up with it. They got out there with a rake trying to spread this junk, which is part of the road. Now, we've got rocks. I'm going to call them rocks. They're actually pieces of pavement that's left in the area that we've been mowing. Not Lynn Haven, us. They're left in the ditch there. I want to know when they're going to get back out there and clean their mess up so we can mow the yard, because if we have to wait on Lynn Haven to mow it, it's probably going to be taller than I am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ma'am, we had a conversation Monday about that street in particular about cleanup with the contractor. And they're supposed to be getting on that for us. they have cleaned up the rocks in a lot of areas. I'll have to, what's your address?
703 West 12th. I'm on the corner of 12th and Tennessee. Yes, they come out there, they cleaned up the piles that were probably 1.5 to 2 feet deep, especially on the corner of 12th and Tennessee. But what they left, they had dug up roots that they're halfway dug up. One end's still attached. I've got roots that are sticking out that are longer than my arm. That's because of them. I've got rocks that they left there that's bigger than my fist. You can't mow over this stuff.
I agree.
They left their garbage there. They literally put their cups in our trees.
Thank you. I'm sure City Manager will get somebody out there. Who's next? Yes, ma'am.
Let me try again on this thing. I guess they couldn't hear me very well last time.
You're doing fine.
I also was deeply disturbed and sick to my stomach when I saw the devastation. It looked like almost like a clear cut, where they weren't trying to salvage the wood. In Sheffield Park, I had a similar experience as some other people. I would like to publicly apologize to Michael White for speaking to him in anger about that. But it doesn't change my opinion. He wasn't here then, so maybe that's part of part of it. But 3 years ago, we did have the 3 public hearings. It was determined that and Ben Yankee had like 3 experts come in and determined that there were 13 trees that were diseased and needed to go, or unstable. And so we were like, we're good with that. That's okay. We just didn't want to lose all our shade in the park. My question is, well, I have a couple. Who cut the trees down? Because I have hired tree people before, tree services before, and they know exactly where that tree's gonna fall. And they apparently didn't realize where the trees were gonna fall, and I don't know who decided which trees needed to be eliminated. I don't know what their expertise was. And I don't know whether there were professionals that did this job or not. And what's done is done. It's over. You can't bring those trees back. And I'm glad to hear of the kind of trees that they're still planning on having. I just am a little pleased. I appreciate what the gentleman in the blue shirt said, that let's try to have some checks and balances here.
I want to, if you don't mind, as far as the checks and balances, Lynn Haven has a city manager form of government. It doesn't have a strong mayor or strong commission form of government. The commission really cannot get involved in the day-to-day running of the city. We hire a city manager to do that. The only thing that the commission can do if we become dissatisfied with the way the city manager is operating is to replace him with another city manager. There are other cities that have strong mayor governments, which is another way of looking at it. There are very few of those left. I believe there are only 6 in the state of Florida. Springfield is one of those. Mr. White and I had some disagreement over what happened out there, but at the same time, I would like to defend him in that he was not here during the public hearings. He was going by drawings that he had. Should he maybe have called a commissioner or two? Should he have called the mayor? Maybe so, and maybe he should have done that, but he didn't. And he came from the corporate world. He's out there, he's watching what they're doing. They're pointing out the various trees to him, and I think he was trying to be efficient. I think he was trying to save the city money, and I don't think his intent was to do anything harmful to the park. That's my take. with that said, I had the same look on my face as you probably did when I went by the park. But with all that said, the trees that are coming are going to be beautiful. There's finally going to be green spaces all over that park where grass will grow without pine trees, destroying that with pine needles. So I hope that will give some peace. And Mr. White, did you have anything you'd like to say, or you want to leave that alone? So.
No, I do apologize if it did offend a lot of people. However, a lot of the trees that was taken out were taken out due to the fact some of them were diseased up. I had 2 surgeons out there looking at the trees with me, as well as some of the trees that was taken out were those that are in front of the big amphitheater that has been placed there. And we have a lot of grass going out in that area, and a lot of people, it's going to be kind of hard to look around a tree to see who's performing on stage. As well as that, I know sometime back I had heard about a lot of the azaleas that used to be around, and I remember them several years ago. We're going to be putting a lot of those things back in place. However, we'll be selecting plants that we can control, and they will actually look and beautify the area. I do sincerely apologize, to the public and to the commission for not letting you know sooner. But as the mayor alluded to, I was trying to be efficient, save the city a lot of money, and try to get the job done. But I promise you Sheffield Park will look good again. I promise.
Thank you. Thank you. And I know my time's up.
It is.
If I may.
We've got a lot of people already. Can you make it really quick? Okay.
It's short. Overall, I am very pleased with the city government. And the transparency has so much increased over time.
Thank you.
And I love to see the progress in the city. And the Sheffield Park thing, it was agreed on, and I don't know if we're in phase 3 or what, but the development had been approved, and it was going through fine. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Mr. Robitaille? Mr. Robitaille, you already had the public commentary section, so I've got a lot of people who want to talk. Since you've already spoken once, I'm going to ask you to let the other person come up.
Like I said
Mr.
earlier,
Robitaille, you're out of order.
what has happened here.
Mr. Robitaille, you're out of order. Mr. Robitaille, you're out of order. Please be seated. Who would like to be next? Yes, in the back. No, I didn't throw you under the bus.
Good evening.
Thank you.
My name is Judy Shelton. I live in the Hammocks. We're kind of on the outskirts, but we are still part of Lynn Haven.
Of course.
I wrote Mr. White a note yesterday. I'm not sure you received it. I'm very concerned about the roundabout that is going to be at Mosley Mosley in Minnesota. It seems like it's a done deal. I never heard anything about it beforehand. I was quite offended by the remark that it appears senior citizens do not know how to use a 4-way stop, and that is why we need to put in a roundabout. That seems like an extreme measure. The problem is we have 2 traffic jams a day, and these are caused by the parents dropping off their children or picking them up at Mosley High. I don't know why we have to spend all this money on a roundabout. If you think we can't use a 4-way stop, wait till we get in a roundabout. It is going to be a lot of fun because now you're going to add all these inexperienced high school kids. They don't know how to do a roundabout either.
That quote did not come from this commission, ma'am. I'm sorry. I don't know where it came from. It may be the newspaper, but it wasn't us.
It quoted Mr. White.
Mr. White did not say that.
Okay.
That, a lot of times you read things in the paper. I suggest you really ask for the facts.
And also the superintendent of schools said, well, it certainly will be better than the way it is now. How they come to that conclusion is beyond me. My other concern is we really maintain a beautiful area on Mosley in front of the Hammocks. The HOA pays for that. even though the city owns it. It is being totally destroyed by young people, old people, I do not know, that are making ruts. At one time, we were told the city would put dirt out there. Another time, we were told maybe they could put curbs up. I don't know what the answer is. And another issue is we had a lot of egging in our community on Saturday night. I realize the police can't be everywhere, but we just wanted you to be aware of it.
I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
letting us know, ma'am. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Who else? Yes, ma'am.
Jody Moore again, 2129 Amherst. I do also want to say, since you became mayor, there was a little contention in the beginning, and I'm glad to see everybody being pleasant and getting along, so we definitely appreciate that. We never did get an answer as to the company who took the trees down.
Mr. White.
Was it the city or was it a private company?
It was a multitude of companies. One of them was Phoenix Construction, one of them was the city, and the other one wants to remain anonymous. And I'm going to respect his wishes unless.
Okay, I understand why.
It did, and by the way, that cost the city no money. They
Okay.
did it.
Well,
Okay, if we could have order,
Okay,
except for the
yes.
person speaking. Thank you.
just, and it's like Arlene said, I mean, what's done, it can't be taken away now. I think at the time I was at the meetings that we had, we made it very clear, I think the community, we wanted a green space in the middle of the city. We already have enough parks where there is no shade. So I just, I went by there and I'm ready to cry over seeing all the trees that are taken down. We understand if some trees have to be taken down because they're diseased or what have you. Everybody understands that. I love going to the concerts in the park, and I don't know that I'm going to enjoy that now. So, I mean, if it's so hot, I mean, it was so nice to sit under the trees and have the shade, and it was about 20 degrees cooler under the shade. So which one of y'all is going to come out and fan me is what I want to know.
Thank you. Would anyone else? Yes, sir, in the back.
Good afternoon. Mr. Schultz, live down the street on Pennsylvania Avenue. My question is toward the city manager, Dr. White. I assume it's Dr. White now.
No, sir.
Not yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
That's right.
Well, I'm sorry about that. Hopefully soon, so we can call you doctor as you're entitled to it. 17th Street, is it done?
Bobby, 17th Street, in regards to what part of it, sir?
Well, you mentioned the half-cent sales tax is paving the streets, which is great, and making upgrades. Is 17th Street on the agenda to be completed?
Just stripe right now? Just
sorry?
stripe. It's going to be striped right now.
Stripe.
Stripe.
But are all the railings up?
No, sir.
Will they be part of the half-cent sales tax and be completed this year?
That's not.
I'm talking about the 17th Street east side of 77.
His question, Bobby, was will the railings be part of the half-cent sales tax money? And I think he was wanting to know if there was going to be more paving. Those were his questions. And on the curve, I believe, is what he's asking about. So.
Well, there's been a lot of questions over the years on the completion of 17th Street. My question is to Mr. White, is the 17th Street done, period? All the talk that we had over the years, is it done, including you said the striping is coming, but the railings?
I would have to, so many streets, I would have to sit down with Bobby and try to figure out what we need to look at to classify it as being done. I'll be more than glad to do that for you.
Okay, so you're saying it's part of the half-cent sales tax?
I'm not saying that. I need to look at the plans. I cannot remember off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Cheryl Brown, 1017 Arkansas Avenue. And I have an issue with your code enforcement.
Okay.
I have wonderful neighbors all around me. If I ever needed them, they would come running. However, there is one neighbor who has 2 junk cars and 2 junk trucks in their front yard. And over the last 3 years, I have called code enforcement asking them to please do something about it. And nothing has been done. The other day, my husband came back from the little, I guess, general store that's right in front of Walmart there. We do some, they're dollar, I don't know what. I just go to them and shop. And he told me that code enforcement went there and told the manager that they needed to go around the neighborhood and pick up their carts that have been carried off by people. And that got the hair on the back of my neck raised big time, because I guarantee you, they didn't go to Walmart and get the manager there and tell them to go pick up their carts. The junk is so much that it comes out on the front porch, and they have no place to park but in their front yard. I used to teach English to internationals, and several years ago I went to Russia. I was gone for 3 weeks. My grass was about 6 inches high. I got rode up by it. So I just like to have somebody talk to code enforcement for me.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Colette Smith. I live in the 1300 block of Rhode Island, my grandchildren live on Vermont, such as some of these other folks over here. The traffic's bad again from General Dynamics. I know the police presence is there fairly frequently, but a lot of children in that neighborhood. I don't know if we can get a speed bump or something. We were concerned with the marina development that would mean more traffic through that area too, where we already have the problems with the General Dynamic traffic through there. So,
what was your address again, ma'am?
1308 Rhode Island. But there's a lot of children on Vermont, where my grandchildren live, on 1203 Vermont.
Okay.
So it's bad in that area. Mostly on 12th Street is the bad part, but they do cut down those other streets trying to beat the rest of the people off of Maryland, et cetera.
Okay, so they have that address and they'll look into that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, sir. I couldn't see all the way back there. I apologize.
My name is William Carr, 1500 Massachusetts. I have a question for Mr. White.
Okay.
If you could please, sir, tell me, under the 2017-2018 budget that was passed, what is the position classification that you're paying the assistant police chief and the proposed assistant fire chief out of?
The assistant chief is a current employee for the fire department that is that got promoted, so he's already accounted for in that budget.
No, do you not plan to have an assistant fire chief?
That's what I was just spoke about.
Go ahead.
He's a current employee.
Okay.
And he's getting promoted.
Okay.
As far as the assistant chief of police, we will always do midterm budget adjustments, and that's going to be into the midterm budget adjustment.
But it hasn't been voted on yet?
No, sir.
So then you hired him before it was approved?
No, sir.
Mr. Carr, the city manager does not have to get commission approval
So
for
then
the hiring of employees
understand
as long as
he
he's within
has
budget.
the authority to hire and fire employees. If he's going to go outside the budget and hire somebody, you guys can go home.
He's
There's
not
no need
gone
for you guys.
outside the budget,
I have not
Mr.
gone
Carr.
outside the budget.
But you've hired for a position that is not approved in the budget.
Sir,
Go ahead, it's fine.
a budget is an outlay of capital where we're trying to figure out what the cost may be to run the city, the expenses.
I understand that. But in your budget, you have a position number for every position
Yes,
that
sir.
is approved.
And all the
by
positions
budget.
in the city are not filled currently. We
And
have
that-
many positions.
I understand that.
And that comes out of the general fund, which if you look at the budget, police, fire, general employees are all added together.
I got that.
So,
I got that.
so if it costs me $1 It doesn't matter which area that comes out of. It could come out of this area or another area.
So then if you're promoting from within on the fire department, why did you not promote from within on the police department?
I will not get into personnel decisions.
I know, because he's your personal friend. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Yes, sir.
Name is Brad Yunt, 210 Lakeview Terrace, and I'd like to talk about stormwater drainage in our neighborhood. We are filling in homes in the subdivision, and what some of the older homes that never used to have a problem with stormwater drainage are noticing is they have a problem now. So I've got two questions. First question is, from a design point of view or an approval point of view, who is responsible for overseeing whether there's going to be a problem and whether there should be an effective solution to it? That's the first question. The second question is, once the problem occurs, who is responsible for fixing it? So, for the first question, is it the city that has to approve the hydrology? Is it the HOA that has to approve the hydrology? Or is it just a matter of the builder should do it as part of his normal professional practice? And when it comes to remedying the situation, is it the homeowner affected that has the responsibility of fixing it? Is it the builder of the new house that has responsibility for fixing it? Is it the HOA that has responsibility? Who has the ball? That's my question.
I think those are all very viable questions. My hope is that with the stormwater study that is now in place, that's about to be done across the city, that there are going to be some things done which will rectify some of the problems that we've been having for a long time. But that was a large number of questions to try to answer in this particular meeting. But I can assure you that there is a lot that's going to be done in this study to try and rectify a lot of the problems that we're having in Lynn Haven. And I don't know if city manager wants to add to that or if any other commissioner wants to add to that, but I think that with the stormwater study, you may get some of those answers you're looking for once that's complete.
I'll add just a little bit. The stormwater study she's referring to has already been started. We've been doing a lot of surveying, putting the data into the water analysis, stormwater analysis. And on top of that, you either have to answer the question, is the roads and the stormwater in the area belong to the HOA or does it belong to the city? So being responsible, we have to look at all different avenues because some subdivisions are privately owned and some of them are public. Those are public, the city has the responsibility. Those that are private, they're responsible. Yes, and as building codes change, some house elevations get higher. As they get higher, a lot of times it does run off to an older home. So we're going to try to address most of all of those in the public areas when we get through with the study and as we go through the model.
Thank you. Next, yes, sir. I appreciate everybody staying within the 3-minute format because the meeting has run long, but at the same time, we want to give everybody an opportunity to speak. Thank you.
My name is John Clark, and I live excuse me, on Waterford Drive, and I'm one of the homes that Brad was talking about.
Okay.
So Halifax is building homes all around my lot. And they started in the back, and there is a ditch in the back of my lot, and in the right-hand corner of my lot is a drain where it goes out. And when they built that backyard, they did away with the ditch. And it went out on one side and it came into my backyard. So I talked to the fella from Halifax and he said he would take care of it. And he never did. They sold the house. Now I've got a problem with my neighbor, which I shouldn't have. Now yesterday, or 2 days ago now, I guess it is, when it started raining,
Heavy rain.
they opened up the house on the other side of me, and somebody moved in a week ago. And I've got pictures of the water up against my house. And so I called the guy again, and he says to me, I can make recommendations, but I can't make him do anything. So today I went down to the city, and I talked to a lady there, and she gave me the name and took the pictures. I gave the pictures to them. And so the fella called me. I was out on the golf course, and he called me, and he said, well, we've got something that, we just got 3 days ago that'll take care of that. And I said, well, what about, you approved this. The city approved this building and approved that building and is going to approve another building. And, I'm getting all this water. And he said, well, it just happened 3 days ago, and, if it happened before that, we can't do anything. And I said, well, he told me he had this job only 3 days. And I said, well, who had the job before? And he said, nobody. And I thought, I've got to come and talk to you.
What's your address again?
304 Waterford Drive.
I'll get in touch with you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir, for letting us know. Anyone else? Public commentary on any topic? Everybody's... All right, thank you so much. We'll move on to our consent agenda. This is number 9. It's the approval of the minutes from the 23rd of January 2018 regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion from the board? Any discussion from the public? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, so the consent agenda is approved. Old business is item number 10. We have removed item number 11 earlier in the meeting. Item number 10 is the discussion and approval of the city manager's 6-month evaluation. This is an evaluation which is part of the city manager's contract. Each of the commissioners was to review the evaluation form, which has been a part of the city, and then decide after speaking with Mr. White if they feel that his performance would warrant going ahead with the contract as written. So is there any discussion or is there a motion on this item?
I move
Mayor, I'd like
approve.
to say something.
Okay, pardon me, go ahead. Commissioner Tender would like to make a comment.
I would just like to say that I spent an hour, a little over an hour, with our city manager yesterday. We had a very open and honest discussion, and I just want everybody to know that that's what my vote is based on, and he won't be surprised.
Okay. Was there another commissioner who wanted to comment, or is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor, if I may.
Sure.
I'm a new commissioner, obviously, me and Ms. Tender. And I think that this
It's been
hiring...
almost a year.
Yes, it has been almost a year. And I think hiring the city manager was probably the most important decision I've made on this commission to date. And I have been exceptionally happy with Mr. White's work product and work ethic. He is always open to discussion. He has never not had time for me. And I don't know what to say, that I'm exceptionally happy with his work product so far.
Okay.
Thank you.
I believe, is there any other comment? I heard a motion almost, but I didn't hear it.
I was trying. I was just moving approval
Okay.
for the contract. That's my motion.
I'll second his motion.
There's been a motion to approve the city manager's 6-month evaluation, and which does result in, am I correct, it's a $5,000, it's not a raise, but it's just adding the $5,000 to his present salary based on a satisfactory approval. Is that correct, city manager? I just want to make sure. Okay, thank you. So there's been a motion and a second for that. Is there any further discussion from the board? Any discussion from the public? Yes, sir. That was Mr. Walker.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I did submit a request into the city asking for the evaluations, and I did receive one reply. As I understand, you all were supposed to write or say an evaluation and submit it for discussion. I only have one. Did everybody submit an evaluation?
I did not submit my written evaluation to Mr. White. I did it orally with him.
Okay. On the form, the evaluation has down that you had a discussion with what is written and presented to him for comment. That, I assume...
That occurred, sir.
Yeah, that nobody, only one was done.
I'll have, Mr. Walker, I'll have mine so you can have it later this week.
Okay, he had, it
Sorry,
wasn't...
I've kind of been out of it a little
I
bit.
know. We delayed the whole issue because...
I understand.
And I'm glad you're well and everything like that.
Thank you.
I understand that. But the point is this...
I believe Commissioner Friend had something he wanted to reply.
Yeah,
You asked a question.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just make the comment that I've met with Mr. Walker and Mr. White, and we did a verbal evaluation just like you normally would, and I've given him the written evaluation. So it's public record. You're welcome to have it.
Okay, I can understand the verbal and everything like that, but there is a written form, and then it becomes public knowledge.
I'll be happy to turn mine over as well if that's important.
Your verbal one does not become public knowledge. So we don't know what your evaluation was.
I'll be happy to turn mine over as well.
Mayor, if you may, I also...
I just wanted to make a point here. I know doing this, I will face the vindictiveness of...
Mayor, if I may...
You would face the vindictiveness of what? I'm happy to tell you that I rated him highly satisfactory on all items, and I'll be glad to give you the written form. But you've never asked for that in any other meeting I've been at as far as Mr. Schubert's.
I asked...
You didn't ask for mine before, so I was just
asked
curious.
the city.
Okay, the 3 minutes, I guess, is done, so.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
Just for the record, I had a verbal communication with the city manager as well, and I'm assuming you've probably got mine.
I got yours.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's on record that I did, okay.
Yes, it's correct. That the reason why is when I'm saying this, and if you take exception to the word ridiculous, I'll pull that back.
I don't take exception. I just wondered why you said it. But let's
wasn't
move
meant-
on to the next
wasn't
speaker
meant
where
to-
3 minutes is. Thank you.
Um,
Your 3
the
minutes has
public-
expired.
The public should know...
The 3 minutes is up, sir.
Your public should know what
Your 3 minutes has expired, sir. Thank you.
Mayor-
Mr. Robitaille, I believe you were next.
Mayor, while Mr. Robitaille is coming up, I just want to make sure, since we've got the evaluations are being discussed, because sometimes people can take exceptions to the way I do the evaluation. You will see on my evaluation for Mr. White that he meets expectations. He exceeds expectations in one area, and I just want to make it clear that that doesn't mean that he's not doing a good job. It means he's doing the job that I felt like he could do when I made the decision to hire him. So I just want to put that out there since we're discussing it. When you see meets expectations, it just simply means that he's meeting expectations. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Mr. Robitaille? Absolutely.
I have to thank Mr. Walker for bringing that point up. I've given a lot of employee evaluations. The purpose of an employee evaluation is for the employer to sit down with the employee, go over the list of needs that the employer feels is most important, and those that the employee is not doing. Quite obviously, you guys didn't do that, did you? You didn't even write up the list. I think what you should do here, and I fully support Mr. White, don't get me wrong. I think what you should do is table this until, and you pay him back pay, of course, should you agree, table this until such time as you follow the rules and regulations of standard business practices and this commission. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment? Yes, Mr. Schultz.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Since we follow Robert's Rules of Order, am I allowed?
Actually, it's Mayor Anderson, not Mrs. Anderson.
Okay.
Thank you.
Whatever. Am I allowed to, my 3 minutes, give my 3 minutes to anybody I choose to? Like, I'm allowed 2 minutes and 57 seconds now. Can I give my 3 minutes to Mr. Walker to finish his discussion?
Absolutely not. You can have your moment to...
Now, we are following Robert's Rules of Order, right?
You may give your 3 minutes to Mr. Walker if you would like to do that.
I do. I give my 2 minutes and 39 seconds to Mr. Walker if he wants them.
Mr. Walker?
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan, on your 3 minutes. I wanted to continue.
Just a point of order to the Roberts Rules. It is my discretion as to whether I allow another person to give it under Roberts Rules of Orders, but I will do that to prevent any further dissension. So, Mr. Walker, please proceed.
I'll make it quick. As what I wanted to establish is it wasn't, the paperwork wasn't followed. Okay. Therefore, the public didn't get a good viewpoint of what your evaluations and viewpoints were so they can form an opinion. For example, if you look at Mr. Russell's opinions and his evaluation, they're perfect for an employee that's been working 30 years in a job. Everything is O.
Mayor, excuse me. No, it's not. Go back and look at it again.
Okay, we're going to follow Robert's Rules of Order.
Don't misquote mine. He didn't get a perfect all the way across.
Commissioner Russell, let him finish, and then you can reply, okay? Thank you. Let's stay in order. Mr. Walker, continue, and then Mr. Russell, you may have the floor.
Mr. Russell is correct. He didn't get a perfect O. I didn't say a perfect O. I said O. That is in the first part. You don't, a new employee, and like Mr. Robitaille, I've done quite a few evaluations and sat on many evaluation boards. You don't hire an employee, and in the first month, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, he is at the top peak. There's no further movement he can do. He can't get any better, except for the 3 or 4, maybe 5 that were down there were exceeding or normal evaluation. That is my point. We, as the citizens, did not get to see how you evaluated this individual. That was my point.
Mr. Russell, excuse me, Commissioner Russell, I believe you wanted to comment.
I apologize, Mayor.
No problem.
I should not have
No
jumped
problem.
in.
Go ahead.
And my evaluation is open for anybody that would like to look at it. Mr. White has exceeded my expectations of what I expected him to do. That is why I gave him the marks that I gave him. I did not give him a check mark across the whole board because there are a couple of things that I feel that he needs to work on. And he knows what those items are. And I don't appreciate somebody mischaracterizing what I've put. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Russell. Is there any other public discussion that needs to be had on this item before we have a vote? Okay, there's been a motion and a second for approval of the city manager's 6-month evaluation, which is, it's not written here, but which includes, including the $5,000 that we talked about 6 months ago that will be added at this time if he met expectations or above. So that's what we're voting on. Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
No.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so we appreciate the work that you've done, and for the record, I believe that all the commissioners have made clear if their written evaluations have not been turned into the city clerk, those would please be done by in the morning, and that includes mine will be available early in the morning. Thank you very much. Moving on to new business, item number 11 is the final reading of ordinance, nope, we struck that one, sorry. New business, item number 12, first reading of ordinance number 1051, the amendment to the Unified Development Code section 5.05.163, and that's the motorized vehicle sale, new or used, and I believe the city planner has a report about this particular item. Thank you, Ms. Richard.
So, the planning department has received occasional requests from people to be allowed to open car sales lots to include the outside storage of vehicles on property located within a commercial land use district. Currently, the Unified Land Development Code only allows outside storage in the industrial and research park land use districts, which means that car sales are only permissible in the commercial land use district when the vehicles are contained within a showroom or put away at night. There are currently 2 used car sale lots with outdoor storage on Highway 77, but these lots were grandfathered into the city, being in existence before the ULDC was changed, so as not to allow them any longer. So they're non-conforming, but they're allowed to be there. These proposed amendments to Section 5.03.13, motorized vehicle sales, new or used, of the Unified Land Development Code, if approved, would enable car lots with outside storage of vehicles to be located along Highway 77, south of Mosley Drive to the southern city limits. That was it.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Is there a motion? It's the first reading. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Mayor, I do have one question. This in no way will affect the Mounts car lot or Mr. Lister's car lot.
The ones that are currently there?
Yes, ma'am.
No.
Okay.
Okay, the reading of the ordinance. I apologize. I thought we had done that. Sorry.
Ordinance number 1051, an ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending section 5.05.13 of the Lynn Haven Unified Land Development Code relating to the requirements for motorized vehicle sales, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, and providing an immediate effective date.
Thank you. And that's the first reading, which requires no action, but we can certainly have more discussion if there are questions about it.
Mayor,
yes.
I forgot. I did have a note here. I just want to clarify and just make sure that it's for a designated area. So if we make the change, it's only going to be for the designated area. It's not going to be all of our commercial land.
Yes. Okay.
That's correct, yes. And that language will be put into the code. It's in the ordinance, so it'll be in the code.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Are there any questions from the public on this item? Yes, sir.
Brad Yunt, 210 Lakeview Terrace. As I read the language of the ordinance, there were 2 areas of concern. Both of them had to do with absolute limits. In one place, they said no elimination from the used car lot on adjacent lots. You know, the word no means none, and I think that that's not a very good term from an engineering point of view. If I had a cell phone and I turned the flashlight on, it would illuminate the adjacent lots.
Okay.
Second issue has to do with noise. Again, the standard was none. You can't hear it. And I think there needs to be a practical amount of light and a practical amount of noise that's permitted. And I suggest that you change the ordinance accordingly.
Thank you for that input. Anyone else have a question or comment? Okay, we'll move on then to item number 13, which is the first reading of number 1052 of a small scale plan amendment, SSA-18-3, DP Nelson Properties LLC. Mr. White, would you read the ordinance, please?
Ordinance number 1052, an ordinance providing for the adoption pursuant to Chapter 163 Florida statutes of a land use change from commercial to mixed use for an approximate 1.75 acres of property located at 301 and 303 West 26th Street in the city of Lynn Haven, Bay County, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Is there any report from the city planner? I have a notation there that there might be. I'm not asking for one. I was just asking. Okay. Okay.
This is the first reading of Small Scale Amendment 18-03. The applicant is DP Nelson. The agent is himself or themselves. It's a husband and wife. The address 301 and 303 West 26th Street. Parcel number 11822-650-525. The existing land use is commercial, and it's actually located behind the car wash, Waterworks car wash, next to the Wyndham Hotel. It used to be a doctor's office, I believe. The existing uses on the site, Pediatrics Plus, which are owned by the same people that are applying for this change, and the size of property is 1.756 acres. The adjacent land uses are medium density residential to the north, commercial to the south, commercial to the east, and on the west it's residential open space. This shows the location of the property, West 26th Street. This is the aerial of the building. This is the current land use, which is commercial. And what's being asked for is mixed use. And you can see that there is some mixed use catty corner to it. And I could tell you the reasons why, but really we're supposed to be just looking at the land use.
Right. Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission or comments? Okay. Any from the public? Okay. Then we're moving on to the last item tonight is item number 14, and this is approval to add and fund a new traffic division for the Lynn Haven Police Department. And this will be a request from City Manager. Mr. White? I didn't mean to rush you, I'm sorry.
No, ma'am, thank you. Yes, several of the issues that's come up during my tenure here with the City of Lynn Haven has been traffic, being able to handle traffic and properly deal with those without deterring from the rest of the public needs. In the packet, there are several figures that the police chief put together for you to review about what it might cost, how we want to initial start it up. This would be initial startup. It'd be 2 officers, which include equipment and of course 2 patrol cars. There would be nothing but dedicated to traffic division. It'd be DUIs. It'd be speeding. It'll be more cops on the pavement trying to slow people down. With this as well, it would create a opening of 2 patrol officers that we would need. So currently we would like to take these 2 officers and move them out of patrol, move them to the new traffic division, which would be paid by the cars and things of that nature. We would be paid by impact fees, because this is a new division and we have impact fees setting to the side that you can only spend on certain items. This would not be in the budget. It's in the budget where you see impact fees. To kind of just give you a rundown of some of the numbers that we've dealt with, our police force has had around 30 officers. We had up to 30 officers from 2013, 14, then in 15, 16 we went down to 29 officers. And of course right now we have 31 officers with the advent of Deputy Chief Ramey. With that, also during those same time frames, the number of calls from 2013 till today, which our patrolmen have to respond to, has increased 34%. So from 21,000 calls to 28,000 calls. The population of Lynn Haven has grown from 19,000 to an estimated 22,000 this 2018. So that's another 15% growth, trying to do it with the same number of people. I could go on and on about the different number of calls. Traffic stops has been increased 53%, but essentially what happens many times is when we have a traffic stop, for say a DUI, suspicion of DUI, it takes that patrol officer, then we have to call in another backup, and that could take up to 2 or 3 hours. With the size of the city, and it has grown since 2013, there's a lot of areas not being patrolled. So, with that, I'll open up discussion if y'all would like to discuss it some more, and we can kind of go from there.
Is there discussion or a motion on this item?
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. I know that we have talked about wanting more patrol, especially down there in front of coming off the bridge and that type of thing. But I also know that we've discussed when we give a speeding ticket that's $100, the city of Lynn Haven retains $10. We get 10%. Is that correct? 10% of the fine.
I can't remember the exact number, but it's very small.
I believe that's what they had said earlier. So my question is, have we looked into how many years it would take to regain this money, giving out tickets. Even a $200 ticket is going to make the city $20. Have we looked into how long it would take to retrieve those funds back? And is that something that even matters when it comes to this?
Well, I think as a commission, you have to think of many different things. You have to think of public safety. You have to think of the growth of the city. You have to think of what it costs the city. As far as what it costs, the impact fees is going to take the initial impact of all the costs associated with these two officers in the beginning. The others would be something that would have to be budgeted for, as far as each year their salary and benefits. I think if you look at the population growth alone, you've gone from 19,000 to almost 22,000. That's quite a few people. The number of calls they have handled, the citations they written in 2013 compared to today has went up 182%. And traffic stops has went up 53%. So, you know, the other thing that I think that we really need to look at as well is look at the safety of the employee. When you take a couple of them off the road, and it may leave one employee out there by themselves, you know, we take that in our hand and our consideration.
I'm not saying I'm opposed. I'm just saying the safety is important. I'd love to see. I wish I had a light on the top of my car, because I go down 77, I go, look at that guy flying by me, you know, and it's the old, we all say, where's a cop when you need one, you know, but, so I'm all about the safety. I just wondered if we had looked into the total cost and how we're going to pay for it year after year. I'm about safety. I'm not arguing that.
Mayor, I do have one question.
Sure.
Will these officers be working predominantly day shift? Will they be working, how would that be set? Day shift?
A lot of it will be day shift. Okay. And trying to work a lot of the neighborhoods is one thing that we've discussed, is the neighborhoods that really need a lot of attention, as well as a lot of the areas along 77 and the main thoroughfares. Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the traffic enforcement unit for the Lynn Haven Police Department.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second, approval to add and fund a new traffic division for the Lynn Haven Police Department. Are there any other questions or concerns from the board that would?
Just a comment, Mayor,
Sure.
if I may, and I know City Manager and I have had this discussion. Obviously, very supportive of our police, and I think safety is the number one thing that we can offer as a community. That being said, I just get a little nervous since it's not in the budget. It's a pretty big item. I just get a little nervous when we make these type of adjustments even before the mid-year. So I know Mr. White and I have talked about that, but I just want to say that I recognize that I may be a little more conservative, but these type of items I'd like to see more at the mid or at the beginning of the year for the next year budget. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Sure. Are there any others from the board?
Could I?
Yes, go ahead.
To help with that, a lot of these costs will not hit till mid-year.
Okay. Are there any questions or concerns from the public regarding the traffic division? Yes, Mr. Robitaille.
I have 2 points.
Okay.
First of all, it's been brought to my attention that our ad valorem taxes do not go anywhere else but to fund our fire department and our police department. Is that correct? Yes or no?
It's just a comment, period.
Do our ad valorem taxes, are they being spent on anything other, taking in mind our, what do you call this one? Taking in mind we have another plan developed by City Manager Lynch, that they don't go anywhere else, just to fund the fire department and the police department. Is that correct or no?
No, sir, it's not correct.
That's not correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that was my number one concern, was how we're going to pay for that. And of course, if it was, then our taxes would go up. However, I do believe that any increases in funds necessary to increase either one of those departments or any other department in the city will be well considered by our city manager and our commission. But going to the, how did you address it, Commissioner Barnes? Our traffic division, correct? We long suffered under our previous police chief the reputation of being the Bailey Bridge what? Bailey Bridge what? The Bailey Bridge speed trap. And we went to the point where we would have a police officer sitting right there. As soon as you come off the Bailey Bridge, bang at you. And if you don't live here, you got a ticket. But anyway, what I'm going to is my concern for the reputation of Lynn Haven. I think perhaps due concern should be given to the name, not traffic enforcement, something other than that. Because traffic enforcement spells ticket to me. And I would appreciate it if you guys would go find some other way to describe this, because our reputation is most important. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Russell.
Traffic enforcement, if you want to call it that, that's fine. We have been dealing with this issue for 3 months, 4 months now. People complaining about speeding in their neighborhoods. Country club. I mean, we had a workshop about stop signs because of people speeding and running stop signs. Traffic is what the problem is. And as far as a speed trap, if you don't speed, you don't get trapped. Simple as that. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Yes, sir.
I didn't know this was going to come up. I want to make another input. I live on
Pardon me?
I want to make 1208 Massachusetts. I didn't know traffic was going to be a concern. This, the insurance factory, the federal insurance factory that's down there, in where the old development place used to be, it takes one officer to patrol that. I've nearly been killed twice going to my mailbox. I try to avoid going to get the paper while they're going to work at the insurance factory. You know what I got when I went down to the insurance factory to ask them to speak to the human relations person to see if I could talk? I got a gun drawn by a federal police officer saying I could leave now and there's nothing Lynn Haven can do to help me. I would urge the city, if we got a contract with those guys, to come up with some money to police. I didn't say run, I'm not supposed to be able to do that. I bet if you ran several tag numbers in the parking lot, you come up with some felons. Okay, I think that facility should contribute to our police department and to the policing of that workforce coming back and forth. It's viral what happens there in the streets. I'm surprised somebody hasn't been killed.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who has a comment about the traffic division? Yes.
Arlene Harris, this thing.
You're
Arlene
fine.
Harrison, 904 Michigan Avenue. When I first saw this item on the agenda, I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool idea. And it would take the police officers that are on patrol, it would take them off traffic enforcement and just give it, and let them do the other things that they're probably supposed to be doing. But I'm not sure what the from what I understand now, that the traffic division would be all enforcement, but not involved in the planning. And there, with all the discussion lately about traffic and trying to do traffic studies for whether we need to put the speed bumps, a stop sign, or traffic red lights, or any of those traffic studies, that would not be part of this division, is now my understanding. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, that this is just freeing up our officers to do only traffic enforcement, to be in the neighborhoods and to be just dealing with traffic rather than having to pull a patrolman off something that he's currently working on to go and deal with a traffic issue, or having to do multiple tasks instead of just the one. Mr. White, do you want to comment on your thoughts, or I don't know.
They will not only be doing speeding, they'll be doing DUIs, they'll be doing crashes, they'll be doing, a crash.
They're doing enforcement,
They're
right?
doing a lot of enforcement, yes ma'am.
Well, that would relieve some of the officers from
They'll
doing
relieve them
that.
to do the other duties they need to be doing.
It would also specialize those officers to know know what's going on in the traffic and around the area. Thank you.
And I didn't really make a comment about it, but one of the comments that Mr. White told me when we were talking about this was that the two officers that they've been talking with about doing this, that they're quite enthusiastic, that they really, it's not like a demotion to be in traffic. They really want to do this. It's what they're interested in doing. So when you love your job, that helps you to do a better job too. So, any further discussion? Okay, there has been a motion and a second. Thank you very much. Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Barnes? Aye. Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, so the motion is approved. Congratulations to the new traffic division. Item number 15, the meeting is adjourned. Have a nice evening.